Webcam microphone up close.
At the age of 19 in 1962, she was a...
See, but I have the files. You know, I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? You know, pistols and the fondle slap of choice. I don't know when that was. It doesn't really matter. Internet, professional wrestlers, and not just Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the cartoon comes from as long as it's real. It doesn't. It's hard to get real information because seriously, they don't want you to just read two sources whenever I try to prove out. You know, it's not. If you expect your government to tell you the truth, you're going to sadly disappoint under one of these things.
Dear Lord, what a dirty old man, huh?
Really? Can't be serious. Is this really how you want things to be? Come on. More eruptions, whatever. Really?
Allegedly broadcast live from Pima Region 2, within the borders of the formerly united and currently occupied states of America. We bring you the Ochelli Effect.
I damn sure know I'm an original. We have all these situations. I'd love to know why it takes 50 years, for
that's that.
For a 19-year-old girl to eventually get up to gumption to put these things out.
And that may in fact be that. It is Thursday night. That means it is time for the Ochelli Effect on UCY.TV radio. We are live. Anyway, man oh man, what a strange week. I'll tell you, I got an interesting guest coming up on Saturday, which I might get into later, but we'll see. Of course, today's guest didn't make it. However, I'm going to pull in Mr. Dylan Wade again, because we're going to have a little discussion about a couple of things. I'm not even sure where his head's at right now, but we will find out very, very shortly. And it has been a strange journey, to say the least, lately. Troubles on the home front, troubles in the world. Watching how, the whole ISIS narrative has now been developed into something that we're going to, what was the quote now, chase it to the gates of hell. That's an interesting concept, I would say. And I'll tell you, watching all that stuff build and watching how we're going to march ourselves right into further conflict and expanded action in the Middle East through surrogate and other warfare, all prodded on by the intelligence industrial complex, is just deflating at best. Dylan, are you with me, sir?
I am, Chuck. Can you hear me? Is the mic working?
I've got you. Your mic is just fine.
Okay, good.
So how you been, Dylan?
Pretty good, you?
Don't ask. Don't ask. Well, anyway, that's the only seed I have to, I have to sort of deflect that question for the moment. I'll say that. I'm just in one of those wonderful states. But anyway, I was thinking about something the other day, and I want to ask you about what you've been up to, because I'm always interested to hear. You still doing your regular shows there on that network?
We've been on a bit of a break. I'll be back on there Saturday, and I've got some new plan. I've got a new plan that is still in the works. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm looking at some interesting options. Let's just say I need to figure some things out, because a couple of the people that I want to talk to, I want to bring on the air. I think I talked to you about it off the air. There are time constraint issues here, and I just don't have the money to get what I need to make a proper recording of interviews so that I could play them, let's just say, and stop and go on my show and all that kind of fun stuff. I'm working off of, ancient laptop at the moment, and that's all I've got left. I've got no equipment, I've got no funds. So, I can't invest it into getting some of these better interviews. And believe me, there are some people that I could bring to this show that would be different. unique even, but can't do it under the current technological condition I'm in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you on that one.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but you know, we'll see how things pan out. Hey, what was the last guest you had on there, by the way?
Daniel Lewis Crumpton. I had him on last night.
Oh yeah, awesome guy. He's been on my show a few times, and have you taken a look at his book or taken a look at his stuff at zeninthecar.com?
I've read some of his stuff at Zen in the Car. I haven't gotten the chance to check out his book yet. I'll be doing that hopefully very soon, though.
Cool. I mean, definitely a well thought out kind of guy, regardless of his writing style or whatever else. Just having him on to speak and really having him go through the gauntlet of the bizarre sort of thinking patterns that I go through. The guy just did it with incredible sort of flexibility, and you got to credit him with that. Anybody who can roll with me for 2 hours and not be tired is definitely an interesting guy, I would say.
Absolutely.
So, and of course, we did an interesting little special the one night on addiction. We discussed his book the first time he was on. We talked about addiction one night, which is definitely has gotten me some interesting feedback. Not all negative feedback, thankfully. I mean, except from the people who are already giving me the negative feedback. Which is awfully interesting. I almost feel like addressing the primary question in some of the negative feedback I'm getting, which is like, who the hell do you think you are? I almost feel like I need to explain that at some point, because who the hell do you think you are is I don't know. I think it's a fair question, but how do you answer that exactly? I mean, Dylan, really, who are you? Who do you think you are? How about that? I'll ask it nicely.
I'm me.
Yeah, you're you, but,
I can't. I don't really know how to explain that.
Yeah, see, it's difficult to elaborate on such a thing, isn't it? How do you really pigeonhole yourself into, something that's only a couple of paragraphs long, something that you can cram into, a 10-minute response on a radio show without sounding like, you've totally fallen in love with the idea of discussing yourself, right? I mean, it's a weird thing. I thought about it a few different ways, and I can't really just pin myself down to a particular narrative to really lay out who I am in one shot like that. I don't know.
It's really difficult.
Yeah, see, so, all right. Well, I thought it was just me, and maybe just, a bit of hubris attached to the idea that, maybe I think I'm more fascinating than I am. But no, it's not that I'm fascinating. It's just that a lot of things, I believe, go into making up a person's mentality. A lot of things go up into, go into, let's just say, there are a lot of events and experiences that are the investments into one's own persona, let's just say. And, if it is a legitimate thing, then that's what it's based on. And therefore, there are many, many different aspects and degrees to which the individual's personality that is exhibited to one on a radio show would be explained, I believe. But that's just me, I guess. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's tough, man.
Well, all right, no problem. I'll get to one question that you threw at me, though, not too long ago, because I found it funny that a couple of people have said to me that I never discuss the... like when I discuss stuff like 9/11 or anything else, and I'll avoid everybody's favorite topic, but when I discuss, something like that, I never seem to point the finger at anybody. I just point out what's wrong with things and all that kind of good stuff. It's because it's a rather complex issue. And next week, if I'm still breathing, I guess, and able to do so, which is all questionable at this point. But anyway... If all these things are still as they are today, next week will be at the anniversary, of course, the 13th anniversary of 9/11, and I plan to do a show, at least my show, dedicated to that issue, that event. that false flag, that inside job that has set us along this wonderful path to being involved in adventures in the Middle East, to being involved in, the justified removal of personal rights in this country, the justification for the increased militarization of the police on a local level, nationally though. All of these things, I think it is, something that is necessary to discuss, and it is the 13th anniversary, so, for those of you out there who are rather superstitious, woo. Anyway, also we're rapidly approaching the 101st anniversary of the inception of the Federal Reserve, which I believe is something worthy of discussing, and that would, of course, be in December, but for this month alone, we can discuss, at the very least, two things. The actual 50th anniversary of the release of the Warren Commission is something that I guarantee you I'll wind up talking about. Can't help myself. Sorry, guys. It does have to go back to JFK sometimes. And of course 9/11. So, something I find fascinating, though, which the parallels, there should be sort of a foreshadowing, a warning for those who are, seriously interested in truth regarding the 9/11 movement, and I think that it's very, very necessary to remind them that that after 50 years of examination regarding the JFK assassination, we are still no really closer to achieving justice regarding that event. We are no closer to actually making people accountable, and really, really quickly, it's because of the squabbling and the nonsensical distraction in certain segments of that community that that really did repulse me when I was very well engaged in doing that work. And it has always been one of those difficulties for me to sit there and have to squabble with people that are trying to reach essentially the same goals. Usually it's over an ego, you know what I mean? It's an egotistical kind of thing that makes people not want to believe that they're wrong. Well, I'm a guy who thinks Lyndon Johnson was absolutely responsible, which is silliness in and of itself. But, once they become entrenched in a position like that, or, once they become entrenched in the position of believing that a James Files had actually fired the fatal headshot, something like that, they refuse to extract themselves from it, regardless of the facts, the discernible deception, which is intrinsic in a story, et cetera, and this is why the wayward but yet still legitimately interested party does end up in the Judy Baker camps of the world, things like that, because after all, we're still searching for a viable story where people aren't fighting with one another. And, look, if you want to believe that, that Cinderella happened to run away and got back home in the pumpkin that was expanded for her, that's fine, I guess. But please don't tell me that you understand the truth or the reality of the situation. And the 9/11 truth movement has begun to fall victim to this over a decade later. The squabbling, the encampment, the sort of lack of anybody's ability to listen to one another, the inability to reconcile pieces of real evidence, and the squabbling over the scientific inequities built into certain examinations has really caused too many rifts for anyone to achieve justice or accountability regarding the event. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's how I see it.
Every movement falls victim to that eventually. It's inevitable, I think.
Well, no, but that's terrible to say, because it's inevitable means that you feel as though they're going to fall into this quagmire, and not, and what, never come out. So 50 years, well, not 50 years, but at this point in another 37 years, Dylan, we're still going to be confronted with the squabbling 9/11 truth movement. I mean, without any sort of justice or any sort of culmination of all of the work that has gone into this. You think that's acceptable, or you think it's inevitable?
I don't think it's acceptable by any means. But what I mean by it's inevitable is it is inevitable that people in the 9/11 movement, or any movement for that matter, will look for the truth so heavily that it will get to that point where they won't be able to take into account new evidence. And the encampments, like you were talking about, it's inevitable because people are so married to the research that they've done.
Well, you know what's even worse is not even the first-hand research. Some people are very much married to the second, third, fourth, and fifth-hand accounts that they've received. I mean, to the point where it's become so diluted that they don't even understand where the source of it is, you know? And again, after 13 years, I mean, how many theories, you know, like I said, the obvious parallel to the JFK thing is just astounding. And nobody wants to believe it, I think. But you know, but even so, you know, in the JFK situation, there have been so many suspects lined up for spurious reasons, generally speaking. I believe at one time I counted that there were at least 75 people accused of being a shooter by one so-called legitimate researcher or another. And usually on very, very, very thin sorts of pieces of of anecdotal evidence and things like this. And I think we're starting to see that evolution with the whole 9/11 truth movement. And it's sad to me because I don't want to see 50 years, go by and still no one will be brought to justice for 3,000 people. Oh. I mean, there are obvious differences here because this is a larger issue, obviously, with 9/11 in many ways, and people who say that, well, it's the same people, it's the banks and all of that. You can easier make a Federal Reserve argument for 9/11 than you can for JFK because, after all, bankers don't require the demonstrative display of killing Kennedy in public. To be honest with you, they don't do things that way. That's not their MO anyhow. The sort of strong-arm tactic of needing to demonstrate, look, no matter who you are, we can get to you, or we can decapitate the biggest dog in the yard. This is more a characteristic of many, many other types of organizations, outside of the bankers who already quite adequately have a hold on just about everything as it is. They don't need to kill people with guns. They don't need to hire assassins. All they need to do is screw around with the exchange rates and disappear some digits, and all hell breaks loose anyway. So, they've already got their hostages. They don't need to prove their power.
There's one thing that I think is different about JFK to 9/11 in terms of the truth movement in general.
Okay, go.
I think we're going to get the truth on 9/11. I don't think we'll ever know the truth about JFK.
I wish that you would be correct or exactly incorrect. Either way, I wish we could get the absolute truth on one of these two things. But it depends. There's plenty of people that say that we already have in our hands the truth regarding these situations, and I find it interesting. Go ahead.
I think it's actually kind of ridiculous to say that we have the full truth, considering there's so many documents still classified.
Yeah, but that's almost like saying that because the government has withheld the evidence of its own crime, we can't convict them. Generally speaking, a criminal doesn't intentionally turn over the evidence that would convict them. You know what I'm saying?
But what I'm saying is, if the government will withhold evidence on themselves, who's going to convict them? Because it's like you said, nobody can give a straight answer and a straight narrative that doesn't have holes in it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, as far as classified documents, and I say this every once in a while just to kind of shake people a little bit, but they usually don't believe me until they look it up for themselves. There are still documents withheld regarding the Lincoln assassination by this government. There are classified pieces of... Now, really? And the reason for the argument about the documents regarding JFK, of course, is that, look, if you accept that Oswald is the lone nut and everything else, what is it that the government could hold back regarding Lee Harvey Oswald that wouldn't incriminate the government here that they would be worried about? I mean, obviously, if that's the straight story, There would be no reason to withhold this stuff. I mean, no asset from 1963 is even possibly still alive and active in any intelligence agency. No investigative technique has not shifted or changed in some way based on the change in the electronic nature of things. Gunshot residue is not exactly conducted the same way it was at that time. No aspect of that investigation should be top secret at this point, and yet it still is. And and for people that say, well, there may still be things that are, well, then I say again, why are there documents regarding Abraham Lincoln's assassination still withheld?
I don't think anybody in the world who witnessed the Abraham Lincoln assassination is still alive today.
Well, the probability is pretty low, Dylan. It really is.
Absolutely, especially with them being in the intelligence agencies.
Oh yeah. You would figure that their grandchildren are already dead, actually. But look, maybe.
I don't know.
But I don't want to start to sound too silly. But go ahead.
I think that we will get the truth on 9/11 because, unlike with JFK, there's seemingly, even some politicians don't believe it. Seemingly.
Well, and you'd wonder how it is that certain people. I mean, okay, everybody likes to bring up Rumsfeld, and Rumsfeld is an evil character from long before 2001. If you want to look at the damage that aspartame caused and take a look at Donald Rumsfeld's connection to aspartame, please do. Please look it up.
That whole administration has some evil people in it.
Well, yeah, but see, Rumsfeld wasn't, that's not the first presidential, Rumsfeld and Cheney both, that is not the first presidential administration that those guys were in charge of, or were not in charge of, were part of.
No, you had it right the first time.
Well, yeah, either way, but I don't believe they were quite in charge when Ford was president, and they were there. Now, who was pulling Ford's strings, who knows, because he was pretty much an FBI stooge and just the replacement figurehead, the only president of the United States to not be elected either president or vice president, as far as I know, is Gerald Ford, and Warren Commissioner Gerald Ford, anyway, just some, congressman from Michigan who just happened to be in the right place at the right time a few too many times. Of course, we found out later, like I said, that even when the Warren Commission was attempting to keep some things secret from other government agencies, Ford was more than happy to be a mole between government agencies. If you check out that history really carefully, and of course, this guy winds up being the bumbling, clumsy, falling down president that we all know so well. But,
I thought the clumsy president was Bush's position.
Oh, no. Believe me. Look up Gerald Ford. He's before your time, Dylan, but I'm telling you, if there was a president to kind of make us look dumber to the world than W did, it was definitely Gerald R. Ford, at least since the television age began. This guy was a disaster. And, of course, his wife with the whole Betty Ford clinic, we could get into that, too. But, look, he continued the so-called, and I'm holding up air quotes here, war on drugs that Nixon, of course, supposedly initiated, of course, while being advised by all of his wonderful CIA handlers who, walked him in the dark into a brick wall called Watergate. But, hey.
Well, I haven't really researched Watergate. I'll have to do that sometime.
Yeah, take a look at how a guy who instructs people how to do black bag burglaries, I mean literally instructs people how to do that at CIA headquarters, that was one of his jobs beforehand, actually forgets to do the stuff necessary, the very simple basic stuff like putting tape across the door so that you would know if a security guard had searched an area after you had passed through it. Tell me how he forgets to do stuff like that and makes bumbling mistakes that end up, leading them straight to the White House, watching, having IDs turn up in the wrong places, having people get caught when they shouldn't have gotten caught. Burglaries were child's play for the CIA at the time, and something that they were well practiced in. over and over and over again, and they would not have used the people that they used, But they basically set Nixon up, and if you dig on it deep enough, I'm sure you'll find the same thing.
Probably. But I'm still trying to gather my thoughts a little bit. But
it's okay. Donald Rumsfeld, though. Rumsfeld is an interesting guy, okay, because on the morning of 9/11, right, he is literally only second as far as the military chain of command, the civilian military chain of command, to the president. He is the highest-ranking military official, essentially, on that day, while Bush is sitting, where in Florida in a classroom reading My Pet Goat, right? But he is ostensibly at the Pentagon, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
An interesting thing is that according to his own 9/11 Commission testimony, he did not react to it until, after the Pentagon was hit. Now that means that there was a full 38 minutes at any rate, depending on who you listen to. But I mean, just reading his own official statements here, he didn't react until over 38 minutes after the second tower was hit in New York City. Now, I find it odd that NORAD was active already, dispatching F-15s over New York City after that second strike, obviously, because at that point it was, obviously a coordinated attack, regardless of who you think or what you think it was, right?
Well, NORAD was told to stand down, based on my evidence, the first time.
Well, okay, but by the time the second plane hit, NORAD is actively sending the F-15s, right? And anybody who was in the area of New York City would have known that by the time the Pentagon was hit, these planes were evident, okay?
Yes.
So the only guy who probably could have and would have been in the right position to order the shoot down of a plane, like, say, over Shanksville, this guy, of course, is sitting in the Pentagon, and even though he's been handed a note that the Twin Towers have been struck by airplanes and everything else, decides to go on with his normal scheduled business meetings that day, including getting a briefing from the CIA, and of course, coincidentally, happening to discuss precisely the fact that terrorism could strike within the confines of the United States, and therefore, they just coincidentally, sort of like the 7/7 bombings, where we were just discussing exactly these tube trains, and okay.
Also, a coincidence that they were doing war games of the exact same event on the same day.
Oh, you're talking about Amalgam Virgo and all that kind of stuff, and Vigilant Guardian and Vigilant Warrior, and we talking about this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's and of course there were documents printed before that, regarding different possibilities and things, and happening to utilize the World Trade Center and crosshairs. That's explainable because of the attack in 1993, which, in case everybody forgets, the main guy who's turning around and putting together the bomb is actually, an FBI informant. But who's counting?
I'm sure that's all just a coincidence.
Well, yeah, I mean, things get out of hand, and, sometimes incompetence is intentional. But, but I'm just talking crazy, aren't I?
Yeah, we're just kooky, tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists. Don't listen to our documented facts.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, and just looking at Rumsfeld's own account of that day, right? He didn't talk to Cheney until at least 9:45 that morning. So what you're telling me is he didn't bother to even speak to Cheney. Well, you know what? I might believe this because Cheney probably didn't want to give him any orders until after the Pentagon was hit, which was at 9:40 or so. So about 5 minutes later, of course, in between him having to run out and go help out first responders for his photo op on the lawn there at the Pentagon, Cheney had to be spoken to because You have to inform Darth Sidious that the fleet is engaged. But sorry, that was a bad Star Wars reference. But I can't get over thinking, that you could put Cheney in that Darth Sidious outfit.
I don't put him in Darth Sidious. I just call him Darth Cheney.
Darth Cheney, nice. See, but there always must be two. I'm not going to go too far. But, for God's sake, what else we got? I mean...
I still think we're going to get the truth about that.
Yeah, well, why would we, though? Because, of course, on the day before, this is coincidentally, again, the day that he announces that we lost a whole bunch of money, is just totally absconded with, disappeared from the Pentagon's finances and the exact area of the building that would have been engaged in that sort of investigation is the one that gets hit,
I have U.S. history this year, so I'm hoping we cover it.
Well, good luck, man. I can't... I can't tell you what to say there, but oh God,
I'm debating.
Yeah, I mean, if I was you, I would sit there and just, hopefully they'll keep you in the Revolutionary War or something, and you won't have to worry about it. But
I know we're at least going into the Civil War.
Yeah, see, but Rumsfeld. I don't know, man. He claims that and I was looking at this today. This is why I'm, talking about it. But, I mean, the fact that he's going out to assist these first responders, supposedly carrying injured victims out there, he said in his own testimony he didn't realize that the nation was under attack until 10 a.m. Now, again, unless my idea of the clock is wrong here, I believe the second plane hit the World Trade Center at 9:05. According to the official story, okay?
Hold on, let me check. Because I saw something different. Let me check.
Well, if it takes 55 minutes, if I'm wrong, please let me know.
No, I mean in terms of when planes hit.
Yeah. Well, I believe that's the second tower was hit at 9:05. I believe.
I'm just checking, because Yeah, you're right. 8:42 and 9:37.
8:42 and 9:37. That's when they say it was struck?
Yeah. 8:42 the first time, 9:37 the second.
Either way...
Yeah, I was just checking for my own reference.
Yeah, I've seen different accounts of this, but it's either way, it doesn't make sense that at 10 a.m. he's figuring out that we're under attack, and during the attacks he's still conducting his meetings. Based on his own testimony, anyway.
Oh. We don't know how bright he is, to be honest.
Oh, no. Wait a minute now. I would not say that a guy like Rumsfeld is not bright. That's something I won't do.
I don't know much about him himself. I know more about Darth Cheney and George Bush.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, even if you start looking into, who was actually the occupational governor in Iraq, after we invaded and, destroyed that whole system over there, and you take a look at, what was his name, Bremer, who ended up doing that job. I mean, this is a guy who worked for Kissinger, which is a huge red flag to begin with. $10 billion, of course, in U.S. cash just simply vanished while he was the occupational governor of Iraq.
I thought it was somewhere around a couple trillion.
I thought it was $10 billion, that they could figure out was totally disappeared. The costs are high, but either way, money disappeared under this guy. The guy who worked for Marsh & McLennan, which was a risk management and investment firm. I mean, this is another executive, by the way, who was not present at his office for Marsh & McLennan, in the World Trade Center when it was hit, by the way. Another guy who didn't make it to work that day. It was one of the first guys on NBC, okay, to push the whole Bin Laden narrative anyway. Now, I don't know about the other networks, but I'm very sure that he was one of the first guys on NBC to start pointing the finger at Bin Laden. I mean, and coincidentally, by the way, he was also the chairman of the National Congressional Committee on Terrorism or whatever it was called from 1999 to 2000. So that's just a coincidence as well. Another guy who works for works for it. You see, but here's the thing when it comes to stuff like this, is that, it's a middle manager kind of situation. Which has always been my problem with the whole Bush narrative and blaming everything on the Bushes. They're not really the key of the power structure. They are the upper middle management. I'll give them that. And they've been pretty consistent that way for, at least, 4 generations now. And I still say that we are not done seeing the Bushes, ascend to puppet positions where the action will be. But I think they really just wind up doing the dirty work,
Yeah, but who really is at the top?
See, that's always the nexus here. I mean, when you get into the Fabian socialist structure, when you get into the different roundtable groups, on the different continents, it's all still very convoluted in my mind because a lot of them are still not the key people in the power structure. There's plenty of royalty involved. There's plenty of heads of state that are involved. But, at the end of the day, who actually has the control here between the banks and the corporations? Who really does the real planning here? You know what I mean? It's one of those things where the collusion has been, and I'm going to borrow an axiom from the movie JFK. It's a mystery wrapped inside a riddle. In an enigma, And I know I just screwed that all up. I can't even remember the line. It's been so long since I watched it.
I can't remember it either.
But to look at the continuing beneficiaries for the war on terror, right? You have Bernie Kerik, who was the police commissioner of New York City on 9/11, right? Which I think it was last year he just got out of prison for, corruption and conspiracy charges, stemming from his time when he was the police commissioner of New York. Great guy to have on hand while, actually, if you look at the film of Giuliani touring around New York City, you'll see that this guy is there with him all the time. Well, it's logical, Chuck. He's the police commissioner of New York. Yeah, but he was also, again, the very first guy to come out and tell you that there were no explosives in any of the buildings. By the way, it's just so everybody knows that. The guy was, U.S. Army until 1977. Was pretty much Giuliani's right-hand guy. He was actually, and here's the funny part, he was actually I believe the first guy appointed for Homeland Security, for the, what do you call that? Good Lord. The chief of Homeland Security, the position that Tom Ridge ended up being the first person for. So the guy who was actually first going to be appointed for that was this guy. I mean, that right there is suspect.
That wouldn't have been good.
And let's not forget that it was Bernie Kerik's NYPD that did find that wonderful, pristine passport that made it through the building without being burned, singed, or mutilated in any way, although the fireball was sufficient enough to destroy a steel-framed, concrete reinforced building, which had never happened before in history before that day. But regardless, a passport survived. I find that rather interesting. And this is the guy, of course, that gets the plum job of going over to Iraq during the occupation to train the Iraqi police force, whatever the hell that means. I don't know.
I think when you talk about the people at the top, the names you always have to bring up because they're just kind of the most suspect. Henry Kissinger and the Queen.
Yeah, but see, in that case, then we have been under that particular regime of elites now, and it's the same people for many, many decades. And, Kissinger, that's a special kind of evil. That's all I can say about that.
I think Kissinger really gives Darth Cheney a run for his money.
Yeah, see, and what I used to find funny is the demonization of somebody like Karl Rove. Because, this was like Bush's brain. I don't know if you ever saw that. You probably never saw that. But
I know Karl Rove.
You know who Karl Rove is. Well, people used to point to him as, like the, like almost like the ferryman on the river Styx, and he just, I could never take the guy seriously. I could never take the guy seriously. Almost like James Carville. You ever see James Carville?
No, but I can't take Rope seriously either. I think it's ridiculous that people think he's behind all of this.
Well, James Carville is like the false left-right paradigm. Okay, so far as let's just say Rove is sort of like one of those figures who would be the impetus behind the figurehead. Like if you believe in the false left-right thing. James Carville is kind of like the guy who they used to say was behind Clinton and has now become, one of those go-to commentators regarding, the liberal position, let's just say, more or less. But he's another one who's pretty much a cartoon character looking guy, and just I can't take him seriously. I can't stomach it. So what did you think about the pronouncement from Joe Biden, by the way? I brought this up at the top of the show, but what did you think about it, or did you even catch it about...
following ISIS to the gates of hell?
Yeah. I was astounded by that on many levels, but I want to get your take on it really quick before I get into my whole thing about it.
I can't even believe that he went out and said that. Come on, violence won't be fixed by more violence. They beheaded Steven Soltov because we bombed them. So we're going to do it again?
Well, you can't have a boogeyman unless you're claiming to do battle with him, right?
I guess, but... I mean, hey, I know why they're saying it, but... come on, people. Be smart here.
Well, Biden's a freaky character anyway, as far as I'm concerned. Again, I mean,
he's not as evil as some of the other people we've seen, but...
No, notice I'm not disturbed or frightened by him, but he just appears to me to be one of those, insurance policies against assassination, really, because who the hell wants to face President Biden?
He's probably worse than Obama on a lot of policy.
Policy? I don't know what his deal is. This guy, look, I've observed films with him ever since he took that position, and I got to tell you something. I watch him during big speeches sometimes. I'm not sure if he knows he's on camera, but making odd-looking faces that make me really, really question exactly what his level of mental aptitude is, and inappropriate sort of like snickering at things, and I mean just weird stuff going on, like almost obvious to anybody who's not fixated on the main product, which is of course Obama is the main product of the sort of the Wall Street crowd there. They're selling you their Wall Street thing in a new package because obviously, they
love him.
Oh yeah, they have to, but the overweight white male in the $3,000 suit is not going to work anymore. And Rush Limbaugh has gone about as far as he can go regarding pushing that agenda. So what are you going to do?
I think it's kind of funny that I think the whole plan was they liked him from the beginning. They saw a guy who would trick people into voting for him, but would do everything they said.
Oh, you mean the whole Obama shell game that we were faced with, where we were going to see hope and change and all that? Yeah, of course. But that's my point: is that he was a well packaged product. I mean, there was an odd, sort of atmosphere on the streets in certain places I went to. Immediately following the election, there was an elation among certain segments of the population where they really honestly thought that this was going to be some massive change that was going to be for the better, and they were legitimately fed up with the, Bush regime, once again, reloaded, and it made a lot of sense that, a guy like this, well, he couldn't possibly behave anything like W did, so anybody who, was really feeling that angst where they were getting angry and fed up with their country, for different various reasons, by the way, but might have actually had that glimmer of belief that things might actually change.
Well,
right?
Yeah, and I don't think, I hope at least, people won't be fooled again with Hillary Clinton. I pray that people won't be fooled again.
Well, see, if Hillary gets in there,
we're done.
All that's going to do, see, but not really. Not really. I really think that's just a continuation. It's just it's the spinoff from the original television show here is all it is.
Well,
which, by the way, anybody who's listening to me and feels like they want to drop in on this, I was told I have the phone line, so 718-717-8296. You can join me that way. If you have me on your Skype contact list, give me a call. That's fine, too. I will drop you right in, and I will listen to what you have to say about any of the stuff we've covered so far, or whatever the hell is on your mind, actually. I am not really agenda-driven today.
But
yeah, go ahead, Dylan. I'm sorry.
No problem. But I think we're going to be... Obviously, it doesn't matter who gets in, but if Hillary gets a nomination, which she will win. I'm 99% convinced that she will win.
See, I'm not so sure that she's not a stalking horse for, Bush reloaded. I think that she might be exactly the foil necessary to give us the Jeb Bush presidency, or the Neil Bush presidency, or whatever it is we're going to be faced with here.
If it's a battle between Hillary and Jeb, kill me now.
Oh, don't say things like that.
Yeah, because they might take me literally.
Well, it would just really give me a chuckle, though, because it would confirm for me exactly how worthless the vote is at this point. Even though I did recently register to vote again, and I really did it to amuse myself more than anything else, because I wanted to see the look on the lady's face when I didn't select the immediate choices as to what my affiliation was, on my voter registration form. And I enjoyed it, actually, because the look of, almost terror at that time, because I had said, well, libertarian would be the closest thing on your list there. So I guess check that off, because I did it verbally. The look of, bewilderment on that lady's face was too much. So, and she even said, after I said libertarian, which of course made me, absolutely insist she mark libertarian, was, I could mark you unaffiliated. And I said, no, mark me libertarian. And look, I've not always been that way. I've said this before. My initial registration was as independent. I actually registered as Democrat a second time, and then failed to register for quite a while because I realized that these elections are a sham, and that the politicians are selected, not elected.
Absolutely.
So my singular vote is really just, one of the most pointless things I could possibly spend my time doing, and take time off of work for or anything else. So it was just one of those things I decided not to do for a long time. But and I don't subscribe to the whole, well, if you don't vote, then you don't have a right to complain either, because sorry, but it doesn't say in the Constitution, to the best of my knowledge, that you only have the right to your free speech if you voted for someone, regardless of whether they won or lost. So I'm pretty sure that I have the right to complain and bitch all I want. So, that's where that goes. Anyway, I know I've covered a lot of weird things here, Dylan, and you didn't expect this today, but I'm just in one of those kind of moods.
Hey, I'm willing to talk about it, but what do you think of the second video that got out?
Oh, which second video to what?
The second beheading. Steve Soltloff.
All right, I'll be honest with you. I have not watched that video.
Neither have I.
And I'll tell you why. Whether it is real, it is staged, it is fabricated, I'm just no longer interested in it. I'm no longer interested in what it represents. I'm no longer wanting to play the game, and I'm feeling myself disconnect from that desire at this point. And really, if it is an actual murder on tape, quite honestly, I guess I don't know, maybe I've just lost my taste for snuff films, because that's what that would be. It would be just like a snuff film. And what else can I say? I don't have a bloodlust that makes me have to stare at every single train wreck. I just don't. I know that most people do, and I know that even I've been guilty of it in the past. You're talking to the guy who, days after Columbine wanted to make sure that he had the security tape in his hand, and I did. I had the uncut security tape that that the media was claiming they couldn't even get their hands on, because I was just that crazy. Because I wanted to see how this all played out. But realistically, I've lost my desire for what's bleeding is leading, and I just can't do it anymore. I don't know. I mean, at some point, I'm sure I'll be drawn into some conversation about it and have to look at it, but I'm not looking forward to it. I don't see what is to be gained at this point.
I don't see a need to. I've seen the first one. I know what they do, or what they claim to do. Well, the jury's still out on that.
Well, yeah, and how, and I don't think this gets thought of very much either, is how exactly, whether it's staged or not, this has to affect people personally in one way or another. And, haven't we seen enough of this already?
Yeah, I'm getting tired of the Warhawks just beating the war drums over and over. It's the same routine every time.
Well, yeah, of course you have to bolster the boogeyman one way or another. How this stuff is even released in good conscience. I mean, there used to be sort of like and I know this is, hey kids, get off my lawn. I'm an old man, right? But there used to be ethical standards, let's just say, among some journalists, and I've learned over the years that a whole lot of stuff that I thought was really just good journalism had been, fabricated and whatnot. I mean, we got testimony from people that, that participated in reenactments being done for even those old, those old newsreels and everything else. But there was a time at which, certain levels of violence were considered too vulgar for the general public's consumption. There really was. And I don't say that we need to go back to that necessarily. I don't say that should be legislated or anything else. I believe in the free flow of information, regardless of how ugly it is. But harping on this kind of stuff and repetitive play of it and everything else, for those who always claim to have these very high sort of highfalutin moral standards, I do wonder quite often why it is that they will seize upon stuff like this and harp on it and do it with a straight face or a smile or whatever else. And, of course, the pretty blonde's hair never moves, and she'll switch right over to her other story about the Twitter account that exploded this morning or whatever the hell else. And, it's just, it's the desensitizing. There we go with the tripping over the tongue.
That's only one.
That's only one so far. We got pretty deep here without the first one, so let's see if my luck holds up, right? Without doing that to the public, without constantly bombarding them with these kind of images and everything else, I mean, would these people, have nothing better to do? I don't know. But I just don't see I don't see what is to be gained by harping on it, whether it's real, it's staged, it's fabricated.
Chuck, you know why they harp on it, because it gets the emotional. It's trauma. They want to cause trauma so that people are willing to go to great lengths to accomplish the goal of the banks.
Yeah, but this is the terrible thing, is that when it comes to trauma-based programming, I understand the concept. But here's something that I never hear anybody bring up, and that is that if someone gets accustomed to what was traumatic, their level of acceptance, their level of tolerance changes.
I agree with that.
So what happens is something that may have been traumatic before is no longer effective, right?
Right. That's why you see them up the game. They always seem to up the game. And there was something you had mentioned that I wanted to touch on real fast. You said a couple minutes ago that they have to bolster the boogeyman. I agree that they bolster the boogeyman a lot, but if you're going to bolster your boogeyman, at least make it harder for the general public to see, wait, this is the same routine you used before. They're not even being creative anymore.
Yeah, but you know the old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
But it will become broke.
Well, see, but that's what I was getting to, is that, you know, after a while, how much of this stuff is going to be effective anymore? You know, a lot of people, you know, like I've said this before, and I've even been guilty of it by saying that, like, people in your generation have a general sort of apathetic view. And on some levels, it's their fault, it's their parents' fault, but on other levels, it's kind of a natural self-defense. Because after a while, how much upsetting stuff are you supposed to face before it becomes normal? You know, and if it becomes normal, then it becomes incidental, you know, and then it's no longer traumatic. Like I said, that line moves, right? So maybe that's really just a natural result of this nonsense that has gone on for so long. I mean, and I hate to even begin to agree with some of the people in the past who have made statements about, you know, music and video games being the cause of, you know, people doing horrible things and everything else. But the fact is, if you normalize violence, if you normalize ugly things in any way, shape, or form, and notice I don't mention sexuality because I think that's a separate issue, but, you know, violent conduct, although it seems to be consistent throughout humanity's history, is not a necessary part of the human condition. It simply isn't. You know? Sexuality, in one way or another, is a necessary function of the human being. And that's why I draw a different line regarding these two issues. But, on the other hand, I can see the point of those who have said that the constant vulgarity in one way or another has changed the boundaries and has changed the bar regarding what's acceptable and what's not, right?
And I don't, on some level I agree with you, but on another level, I will never agree with the people who say video games are the cause of violence, because that's ridiculous. Most people can tell the difference between fiction and reality.
Well, in a way, yes, but in another way, the brain does become accustomed to. See, repetitious behavior, regardless of how, you know, simulated it is, it does change the brain chemistry, literally, if you continue to engage in it. So, it's scientifically provable that it's going to cause something different to happen if you continuously and obsessively engage in violent activity, whether it's fictitious or real. Okay? So, on one level, I would say that in and of themselves, all by themselves, no, they're not causational effects regarding the outlandish behaviors of individuals. But at the same time, if any activity is obsessively repetitious and changes the moral standards from which one should conduct themselves, and becomes, part of the brain chemistry. It just becomes part of the brain chemistry. It's a weird sort of thing,
On some level, I agree with you, but it's not the same for all people.
Well, no, nobody's brain chemistry is exactly the same.
And it's, I think, just a small minority that get their brain chemistry changed to the point of going crazy.
Well, yeah, that could be correct. But, I mean, look, in a different generation, in my generation, there was the whole argument about the influence of media via music. Okay, music was the big, was the big boogeyman. Even at the time, I mean, you're aware of the Columbine shooting, right?
Yes.
Well, even at the time of the Columbine shooting, it was like, well, these kids were engaged in being fans of a particular type of music. It changed their mentality. They had also been bullied and everything else. So if you put all these things together, that music is a rather nefarious influence over these kids' thinking.
Do you see how you just brought up something to help prove my point? Do you see how they use a scapegoat every time there's a tragedy? Every time they use a scapegoat. At one time it was music, at one time it was film, now it's video games. They'll never discuss the antipsychotics.
Well, no, but the root cause of the problem is not the music. The root cause of the problem is not. But to say that it doesn't have any sort of a contributing factor is also rather ignorant, I think, as well, because...
Absolutely.
If you take somebody... And here's why I think the video games are becoming more dangerous, is that the more of the brain-damaged walking wounded we have from the fluoride, from the chemtrails... and from everything else, the more of those we have out there participating in this stuff, I mean, they're much more highly susceptible to this than, say, you or I would be. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I agree that it's a contributing factor, but I get really tired of people saying that it's the main factor, and I'm not saying you do that.
No, I would never say something like that, because, again, I believe in the freedom of expression at any rate. And unfortunately, as I've tried to point out to others, that does mean that you have to defend, the freedom of people that you don't agree with as well.
Right. So the First Amendment was written to protect unpopular speech.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was written to protect all of it, but the idea...
Popular speech doesn't need to be protected.
Very good. That's exactly right. And, and this is something that I do believe in, the right to express oneself, in a social way, in a spiritual way, in a communicative fashion of any sort, is endemic to being, a citizen of this so-called country at this point. So, until they actually abolish it completely and and take away what was this country, absolutely, I would say that there is no reason for me to strike down anybody's free speech. I can question their speech any which way I like, though.
Yeah.
But again, of course, inciting people to do damage to someone is something that is not acceptable as well. So there's a fine line regarding this. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But at some point you wonder, though, exactly how much damage some of this media does.
And I agree that it can do damage, but it really depends on the person. Like, here's an example. You don't have a 7-year-old play a mature-rated game. That's silly. That may cause some damage because it's more than they can handle sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all based on the individual, and parents are supposed to be the arbiters of that stuff up until a certain age, and of course that age varies because we all lose control at a certain point. And that's where that comes in. But anyway, it is one of those things, though, that does make me worry and wonder because, by the time my newborn is of the age where he might want to participate in gaming, et cetera, I'm wondering exactly how realistic and how addictive these things will be because they are addictive, And again, I don't believe that addictive substances should be outlawed or legislated as heavily as they are. Despite having seen a great many damages done by addictions in my lifetime, and not just my own. Many other people. There are many people that are in the ground today that should not be, that should still be alive on this earth with me. If it were not for certain chemicals, addictions, and behaviors that they partook of. So, I've borne witness to this more than once. So, I would say that unfortunately, it is a matter of one's ability to deal with what may be addictive, and I do think that video games are just as addictive as a lot of other things are. Not quite as addictive as the wonderful chemically engineered pharmaceutical drugs that are brought to you by all of the big names, but nonetheless, it's still an addictive activity. Does create euphoria and stuff like that. This is all, as far as I'm concerned, reasonably scientifically provable. But nevertheless, I would still say that I wouldn't seek to legislate any of that stuff or anything. But anyway, Dylan, that's a quagmire in and of itself, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Not quite as much of a quagmire as we have in the Middle East at the moment. And I found it interesting when I was talking to Roger Landry on Tuesday that the Liberty Beacon is actually going to get some boots on the ground in the Middle East and create a truly alternative stream of information straight from the Middle East. Have you heard anything about that?
I actually talked to Roger yesterday, and after the show, I got to talk to you about something.
Oh, okay.
Roger wanted me to give you a message, and he...
Oh, is it a good message or a bad message, Dylan? Because I don't know if I can take any more bad messages today.
Well, it's good news from what I understand.
Okay, well, then I'll be happy to receive it, because I worry, because, Roger said to me recently that he would be more than happy to take my calls, even though he's a very busy guy, and I try not to bother him. And he gets a little mad at me when I say that, because he says, you're not a bother to me. But, and by the way, everybody, of course, I do the Liberty Beacon Tuesday nights, and I advise everybody to go check out thelibertybeacon.com, because that is the main site from where you can find all of the fascinating individuals who are involved in that particular project, let's just say. And I don't even like calling it a project. It's not quite a movement, but it is strongly and quickly becoming one after only being around for 2 years, and it's definitely something of interest. And I guess I got a little bit of a collaborative spirit. I want to work with people. Sue me. What can I say? That's just the way I go about things. But have you done any of your YouTube shows lately?
Yes, the show that I did last night with Daniel Lewis Crumpton was actually a YouTube show.
Oh, cool. Curiosity, though, what did you guys cover? I mean, did you listen? I know you listened to part of the shows with me and him.
Yeah, really what we covered, I only did an hour with him because we got delayed by a bunch of things. Some issues over at Shake and Wake, so I just did the show on my YouTube channel. But I only had him for an hour, so we covered the apathy for what's going on, his belief system, and we covered a little bit of what's going on in the Middle East currently.
Well, I gotta say, I really do. I gotta do another show with Daniel. Actually, that's what I gotta do. That'll probably make me feel a little better because I've been so, and even Roger said it when he joined me on Tuesday. He said, you sound dejected, and I know I do. I'm just, it's personal issues, it's financial issues, it's a bunch of things just all of a sudden caving in on my head all at once. And,
yeah, I've noticed that too.
And I'm distracted again. I knew I was going to be around the time my son was born, and I thought that I could get right back on track, and I've tried to bring you guys some interesting guests. I've tried to do, what I consider to be, dynamically different shows, so to show you guys a little bit of a range, and to give you guys an idea that I can do some different things, even without any sort of production, even without a budget, even without money, even without a producer, without whatever else, almost everything except a computer. That's the only thing I still have running. Although it's probably, older. Well, it's probably at least half as old as you are, Dylan. But it still works, so, for now. And therefore, my sound is not great, and I can't pre-record, and I can't set up things on different times, and blah, 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 blah. But, it's mostly been a personal ugliness that's been going on lately, so...
Well...
And I apologize for it, guys. I'm not trying to sound down. Really, I'm not. It's just...
Oh.
Damn.
Anyway. You're doing good. Keep going. It'll pick up. And this news will probably cheer you up.
Well, I hope so. I was even trying to do... I did Truth Emerges I did with Lee a couple nights ago. And we were discussing false flags, and I thought it was a really good show for a little bit. And then I actually lost power during the show, and boom, I was off and couldn't get back in with them or anything else, and probably just about half made my points. I don't even know how good or bad that show was, but oofa. And it's always great to work with Lee, which, by the way, just look up Truth Emerges Radio on Facebook even. You can find a Facebook page for it, or just look up Lee Peer, P-E-E-R. There we go, trip number 2 on my tongue, thank you.
Oh, hey, you usually only have three per show, so you're doing all right.
Yeah, and we've actually killed an hour here, so not bad. By the way, you are listening to the Ochelli Effect on UCY.TV, and I do exhort anyone who is listening to it further downstream to go to ucy.tv/TOE. And no matter what show happens to start up on the little player there, the chat room, which is on that page, goes around for all the shows, runs 24/7. There are some very, very interesting characters in the chat room. I'm sorry, I don't usually pay attention to the chat room during the show because of my visual issues. And, at some point I do hope to find a solution to that, because I'd really like to interact with you guys a lot more, especially the people that are diehard, like 24-hour-a-day UCY TV listeners. So appreciate that. Also, really, really quick, you can find the Ochelli Effect on Facebook. Of course, there's a page for it. There's also a new event page for it, but I'm not sure how that's going to run. But you can find it on there. You can also just find me, Chuck Ochelli. That's spelled O-C-H-E-L-L-I. Emails, complaints, hate mail, death threats, whatever. CHUCK1972 at Lycos, Lycos.com. That's my email. And I always welcome everybody if they want to make me a Skype contact so they can join into the show that I'm on whenever. All you got to do is just request charles.ochelli, and I accept just about everybody, but I don't keep all of you. So, now that I've done all that, oh yeah, and by the way, if you look for Chuck Ochelli on the SoundCloud, you'll find a lot of the shows that I've done on UCY, also guest spots I've done on other shows, mostly UCY Network stuff, a couple of things that aren't. Interview with Corbett some time ago, which, by the way, was another guy who I was going to bring on not too long from now, but I'm not sure how we're going to work that out because obviously he's in Japan. And although last time he appeared on my show on a Saturday, he tells me that that's like a family day for him and does not want to do it this time around. So I'm trying to work it out with him to appear with me and do another live little interview, especially because have you seen the Here's a question for you. I don't know how much surfing through YouTube you do, but do you take time to surf through YouTube?
Not often, but sometimes I do.
Man, you should do that once in a while, because I'm telling you, there are some interesting things, and I guarantee you'll start to, it'll start to give you ideas for different people you want to bring on your show and everything else. Which is something that I do from time to time. I just see somebody who's posting their cool stuff on their YouTube channel, and it so happens there's some other kind of broadcaster or whatever else, and I get involved in some interesting conversations and occasionally find some good guests. So what I did is, of course, I went to the Corbett Report channel on YouTube and looked at Century of Enslavement, which is Corbett's new documentary on the Federal Reserve. Really well done, and I had virtually no argument with anything in it. So, that's unusual for me. So I would definitely suggest anybody goes and checks that out, and it costs you nothing if you have a computer and can go on YouTube or a, Fondle Slab of choice that you can find the little YouTube app on or whatever. I would definitely say it is worth your time. I think it's about an hour and 40 long, something like that, but well done, despite the fact that James doesn't think he's a very good editor. I think he makes his points very well, and even uses a little bit of humor now and then by showing you clips from the Federal Reserve's own little video series. So, enjoy that, and in case you don't know the total history about Jekyll Island and exactly how that conclave came to be, and
I've never even heard of that, so I'm checking that out.
You don't know about Jekyll Island?
No.
Oh my, Dylan, you gotta look into this.
I'm relatively new. I haven't gone down all the rabbit holes yet.
Well, okay. In December, I think it was December 23rd of 1913, the Federal Reserve Act was signed into law by Woodrow Wilson. Okay, you're probably aware of that.
Yep.
Okay, but what a lot of people aren't aware of is on a day before that, it was actually, ready for this, November 22nd, they decided to make a journey under cover of darkness, only using their first names. The Warburtons and many other interesting banker elite type people in this country all got together and essentially crafted the Federal Reserve Act.
Oh, I think I saw something about that.
Yeah, and the
a little cartoon.
The absolute book on it is by G. Edward Griffin. It's called The Creature from Jekyll Island. And G. Edward Griffin is a guy you should look up for sure, too, if you're not aware of everything that he does. I bring him up regarding his 2 cents on the JFK Federal Reserve conspiracy and all that. I always bring him up as backing what I say because it's kind of funny. He did. I didn't realize it when I looked into it. But it came up just about exactly the same way. I think he leaves out the points that I make, which are that that particular mechanism that people point to was created long before the presidency of JFK and continued on after his death. But the point is that when he puts it into context, of course he's going to do it a lot better because he's a Federal Reserve researcher, historian, etc., and is somebody that most people at least would think of as a reliable source regarding the Federal Reserve. But The Creature from Jekyll Island is like a must-read for anybody who wants to really understand how the Federal Reserve came to be and what its function really is. So yeah, Dylan, I would definitely suggest if you have time to read that or get an audiobook of it or whatever, do it.
Definitely.
So, but he does start out with that and gives you the whole, train ride, which started from, you're going to like this. Actually, they boarded a train in Hoboken, New Jersey. Yeah. See, everything, I'll tell you something. One of these days I'm going to do a show on how everything seems to be connected to New Jersey in one way or another.
Yeah. We're one of the more boring states, but...
No, not really, because every criminal has some sort of retreat there. Every evil action that ever occurred in the United States is somehow connected one way or another to someone in New Jersey. It just seems like it's a nexus point, in the points of disturbing things in the universe is somehow on a map in New Jersey.
Wonder what I am in the universe's eyes.
Oh, see, now you're getting into very strange questions.
Yeah, but I'm relatively strange, so.
Yeah, well, I used to say I'm just a hiccup, but that's okay. So, how did I get off onto New Jersey? Good God.
You got me.
It's so weird, though. I mean, the Hindenburg crashed there. There's just so much to it, man. I can't even begin to.
We could spend 2 hours just on that.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're more attuned to the esoteric and occult aspects and et cetera, legends and urban legends and Pineland legends and et cetera, I advise listeners to go look up something called Weird New Jersey, which has been a running magazine for years and has also been released in book form. And you can find a lot of the interesting legends of ghosts and different haunted graveyards and strange apparitions and odd occurrences and disappearances and weird murder plots and all kinds of fun stuff.
Hooray, Jersey. We're number one in crazy murderers and evil people and paranormal activity.
They're number one in bizarre coincidences where, even people that you can, and you're going to think this is totally insane, but even some of the people that were arrested, you're going to love this, some of the peripheral people that were arrested in Dealey Plaza in 1963 on November 22nd, I kid you not, have connections to New Jersey.
It's bound to happen. Yeah, we're number one in bizarre coincidences.
Yeah, but you'd think that the bizarre place would be California, because I swear to God that is from another universe, man. It does not belong on this planet, that state. It just doesn't. And I say that wholeheartedly knowing that a lot of the people that were listening to me not too long ago were in California, and I'm telling you, you guys are in a dimensional rift. It just, you are. I don't even know how you're receiving it. So.
Yeah, and them and us, we are two of the strangest places on the planet.
The bookends of bizarreness in the United States, at the very least.
How did we get on this?
I don't know. I'm really not even thinking about what I'm saying. I'm just rambling at this point. Why don't you get me on track for once?
Oh, God, you must be really desperate if you want me to get you on track.
Well, see, look, you can be blunt as you like. Go ahead.
I got nothing.
You got nothing.
I'm still trying to figure out how we got to New Jersey and California being the place that's out of this dimension.
Well, there's definitely something wrong with both places outside of the toxicity, and it's just... But maybe that's it. I don't know. Maybe
I don't think really toxicity would cause all these different things to happen.
I don't know, man. I have very much a right to pick on New Jersey, by the way, unlike a lot of other people.
From there.
Well, because I was born there, and I've lived the majority of my years. I lived in New Jersey. I lived other places, but majority of the years I've been on this planet, I lived in New Jersey. So I got a perfect right to pick on it. That's the way I feel about it.
and I'm here too, so I have all the right in the world to pick on it.
Yeah, exactly. And even so, it's divided into two states anyway, because North Jersey and South Jersey are definitely two different things.
Oh yeah, it's insane. I've been through there, and the people are totally different.
Yeah, it's weird.
There's still nut jobs, but they're different kind of nut jobs.
Well said, sir. Well said. And I wish it was just accountable for the ocean air and those odd stacks, around the turnpike and all that. But no, it probably isn't just the toxicity. It's just some sort of magnetic irregularity in the universe that just happened to land there. I don't know.
I don't get it.
No, me neither. At any rate,
this has been the ramblings of Dylan Chuck.
Yeah, and this has been one of the weirdest episodes of the Ochelli Effect ever. But hey, it could be worse, I guess. Anyway, and I didn't even finish with Biden. That's the fun part.
Yeah, we got off of Biden and we went to Jersey and California.
Yeah, and I don't even know what the steps were in between there, and I know there had to have been some.
Something about an island and something about surfing.
Maybe. It must have been that vacant stare. Oh, I know how this happened, because the train for Jekyll Island started in Hoboken. That's why.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's what it was. I'm just... thank you, Dave. You reminded me. Thank you very much. I get a Skype message once in a while from somebody who tells me something, and they just inform me how it is I got onto New Jersey. I can't believe you're still listening, but thanks.
I can't believe we have any listeners at this stage.
I'm sure there's a few. Especially ones that are preparing to write long, exhaustive pieces of hate mail.
That's really entertaining. You're gonna have to do a show about that one day.
I legitimately don't know if I can fill 2 hours with all that.
No, you could. Bring a round table on to discuss it. You can do it.
Who's going to want to come on a round table to discuss the bizarre hate mail I get?
Me.
Man.
I have a sick, twisted sense of humor.
Do you know the only shows that I don't get some sort of negative message for are Tuesday nights? My Liberty Beacon shows I don't get attacked for. But everything else...
I hope you get nice comment. I hope you get nice hate mail about me.
Well, we'll see. I also haven't posted to SoundCloud lately, so I think I'm like...
They yelled at for the hat.
Yeah, I think I'm like 2 weeks behind there, so, good Lord, when I post that...
I'm 2 weeks behind on my YouTube channel, too. I've done 2 shows for Shake and Wake and still haven't uploaded it.
Oh, man. Well... And have you been in contact with Stu Webb again?
I think we're doing a show with him soon.
We'll keep track of that, because I'm actually interested in that.
Yeah, just contact him. He's on James and Pending's friend list.
Cool. James and Pending is a guy I haven't talked to in a while either.
His laptop is broken again.
Well, that might be it, but the other thing is, I don't know. He's been like the ghost in the machine for me, because he pretty much put me in touch with like 5 people that I do talk to all the time, but now I don't seem to ever cross paths with him anymore.
Yeah, same here. I called him up once recently to see what was up, and his computer's fried. We're doing a show. He's going to be back on the 8th.
Okay.
And we'll be doing a show if you want to join us.
And Jack Blood's supposed to return to air on Monday. I haven't kept track of that really well, but I was told that he'll be back on the air on Monday. So, oh boy. And as the alternative world turns, right? So, again, though, I do apologize, because I am just exhausted, dejected, and just rambling about things, because my initial plan for this show did not go. So Dylan could tell you that literally 5 minutes before I started this show, I think it was.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
I said, hey, you want to join me? Because nothing else is working out.
And I have pretty much nothing going on Thursdays now, so I can join in anytime.
You might have to become my regular Thursday guy to drag me through these shows, because I don't know, man. I can't seem to schedule guests that actually keep to their appearances on Thursdays, and I can't plan anything regarding Thursdays because of just the personal chaos. So,
Chuck, I enjoy coming on these shows. Your ramblings are somewhat entertaining.
thanks for that somewhat entertaining deal. I appreciate that.
I gotta rag on you a little bit.
Yeah, but you got to go backhanded against your backhanded comment. Really, your compliments they can't just be So.
Dude, you know I'm just messing with you.
No, it's okay. You know what? Everybody has a right to be a jerk sometimes.
Yeah, and you get me a lot too, so.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, look, if I really want to start on something, we can go back into that debate again. So.
I'm still working on getting round 2.
Yeah, that's okay. And I'm surprised nobody wanted to join us here, but probably everybody tuned me out. So
honestly, I'm a little surprised, but I don't know if there are any, if there's anyone even tuning in.
Well, Saturday, like I said, this is the upcoming shows. By the way, Saturday. We're going to, let me see, I don't want to announce the guest yet, but there may be more than one, and the show's focus is on astrology, believe it or not, in a weird sort of way. So we'll just leave that at that.
Chuck, hopefully you get one.
Yeah. Hopefully one of the 2 shows. Tuesday will be the Liberty Beacon night again, and I'm actually not sure who the second hour guest is. This week past, Michelle was on actually in the second hour. Kind of interesting. Of course, as soon as I joined her into the conversation, I had all kinds of Skype issues. Don't know what that is. Just Skype does not want me to have her on.
Skype doesn't want me to do anything. I've been fighting Skype for the past week.
Yeah, well, it does happen sometimes for a while. And then this coming Thursday again, next Thursday, not today, obviously, but next Thursday I'm going to do something with 9/11. I've got a couple of guests hopefully lined up, but being that I only have the 2 hours to work with, and being that that's going to be a busy day for some people that are pretty well known in the 9/11 truth movement, it's going to be difficult to arrange. If I had extra time that night, it would be better. But that probably will not happen.
At least you've got guests for Thursday.
Yeah, I do. There is a plural of them. That's a good thing. Oh, no. A caller is actually trying to join in. And, caller, you are on.
Corey, it's Colby.
Hey, Colby. How you doing, man?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
I've been having a rough week, and I'm just rambling and babbling through this show, and it's unfortunate. Were you listening?
I am listening, and you do have a decent group. I mean, Dave's in here, Anon 8131, who's normally on here, is in here. You've got some of the people. I'm actually trying to get a hold of Vincent or Jules, because I was supposed to be on next hour, and apparently we're running a rerun, and miscommunications happened. But I had one of those weeks earlier this week myself, and I kind of stepped on the toes of one of our other shows and was kind of wrong at that. I mean, opinions are opinions, and we all have them. And I was in the chat with it. I didn't actually step on their toes in their show. But it was, we all have our different opinions. It's a decent thing we've got. And, Honey's on here also. It happens, man. We have these weeks where we just, all this stuff that comes in our heads just beats us to the ground, and it's so hard to deal with. So,
and
don't beat yourself up about it.
And then you got a personal life on top of it, which, doesn't necessarily always go according to plan either. So, it's just one of those things where it just turned out to be one of those days, man. I appreciate that, and I'm glad that people are in there listening in the chat and all that. Like I said before, I really wish I could watch the chat while I'm on, but it's just it's a physical impossibility at this point.
And I can't figure out where the pause button is, so I can't watch the chat room either unless there's echoes throughout the whole show.
No, it's on the. You know what? The player is up toward the upper right hand corner. Like if you go above where the chat is, you'll see that there's a little arrow probably playing when you go to the UCY page, and if you just click on that, it'll stop and it'll pause.
Thank you.
No problem.
I normally just mute the sound on it.
Yeah, see, that's what I used to do too, but like I said, I had a hard time following it. And, so I don't interact with the chat. I'm trying to come up with a solution for that, actually. But no, man, Kobe, I really appreciate you calling in, man, because it lets me know that at least I'm not talking to myself.
Oh, you're not. You got Honey Radiance. You got Minor Dave, Keeper's Republican here. I mean, there's always at least some people in here. Now, a lot of these shows get rebroadcasted. So although we may think we're reaching no one at some point in time, we really still are, because a lot of these shows are, I mean, they rebroadcast on the News Doctors, for instance, for Double Cross Radio Show. I mean, Joe Friday's in here. Jules is always in here. Double Cross Drew's in here even. Shout out to my boy Drew. There's always a lot of people in here, and regardless of whether we're on air or off air, there is a repeat of a lot of our shows sometimes. When we do have the dead air, we've been doing that more frequently, and it's different time zones for different places. People get on here. I get on here randomly every once in a while just to listen to things. Even when I'm driving down the road, I turn AM talk radio off and I turn on UCY instead, because you never know what's going to be coming up in the. It might give me good discussions for my own show or Double Cross. There's always something on here that's interesting, and whether it's your opinion or not that you agree with, you can always counter that in your show and not degrade that person or anything like that, and find the differences in opinion. There's a lot of things that we could do with it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like a guy I really like, which he does the show on Sundays is Ochelli. He does some good stuff. I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, but I'm definitely in line with his sense of humor. So I like
humor is important.
Yes, absolutely. I like Shaliak, and there's a lot of good people on here, man. I like the Souvenir event on Saturdays. Of course, we got the Prepper Chick still.
Oh yeah.
We still got that morning thing going on. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with the whole, Jack Blood simulcasting over here or not, but hopefully that'll keep going. That's interesting. Even the replays are kind of interesting. I mean, we bounce back and forth between May Russell and Bill Cooper.
Well, we did bounce back and forth between them, and that actually. Jules has been rebroadcasting a lot of the different shows instead of May Russell and Cooper, which is, that's phenomenal. I know that after Double Cross now, it's usually a repeat of Double Cross Drew's show. I believe it's Off the Grid Journey. And, these things she's bouncing a lot of stuff in there that's really good. So we get a lot more exposure through different times and different people that want to listen to different things. So there's always positive. Something I've thought about, actually, is I know that when we're doing 2 hours, or like me tonight, I was supposed to do from 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific time until 7, and then from 7 to 8 with Double Cross, because I was supposed to fill in for Vincent. But I thought about doing something like recording some of my own little, what's the word for it, satire commercials. This message is brought to you by communism. Why? Because these ideas are so good, they're forced on you. Just little things like that, or it's like a commercial break that's a complete fallacy, but it's something to give, if you got to run to the bathroom or something, sometimes you got to do things and you don't have a gut.
Right. I thought of disclaimers for the shows. If you absolutely believe that Barack Obama is still a good president, then please do us a favor and tune out. Thank you very much. Stuff like that.
Or tune in and educate yourself, please. Yeah.
Attempt to educate yourself, so long as you will not cause yourself too much harm getting paper cuts from a book. And a book is something that still does exist, ladies and gentlemen. Something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I definitely. I would love to see some of those more satire-based little announcements come in. That would be great.
I can't remember who does it, but I know in his introduction, it's like, by the way, this radio show may have mental nudity. Please be advised, And it's like the guy's speaking so serious you can't even tell it's a joke, But most people wouldn't even catch it unless they really listened to the words. Because most of the time when an introduction comes on to something like that, they just tune out, But
yeah, well,
there's all kinds of fun stuff you can do with radio like that. It's always amazing.
That's true. That's true. And the only way, I mean, of course, I know people like my whole intro is obnoxious as hell, but that's the way I wanted it. So, you know, what could be more obnoxious than my own voice being overdubbed so bad that you can only occasionally pick out a phrase here or there, right? Over a really badly recorded punk riff that I played, 20 years ago. So, good luck with that.
I don't think I've heard your intro. Who's your punk rock intro?
It's literally me.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's me playing guitar and with a drummer I worked with in '92, and then just a bunch of my voices dubbed over it, and then it says allegedly broadcast live from FEMA Region 2, which I moved, so now I'm in FEMA Region 3. So occasionally I jump in and just dub the 3 over it. And, allegedly broadcast live in the formerly united and currently occupied states of America. So, there you go.
If you do overdubbing, I might be able to update your drummer's punk rock track for you.
Oh, man, I will send... You know what? I have you on... You still use your Skype?
I just sent you a message from her, I do believe, a little bit ago. I'm trying to get a hold of Jules because we had a miscommunication, but... Things happen, and it wasn't her and I miscommunication. It was her and I had a previous conversation, and then me and Vincent had one. And he was like, "Well, I need someone to fill." I was like, "All right." And my situation changed, so now I have the opportunity. But I don't think it's going to happen tonight. So we'll see how that works out. The
reason why I asked is I could drop you the original piece and as a file on there. So.
Okay.
You could probably open it up, like say with something like Audacity or whatever, and man, you could do
I
whatever.
could probably open it from my phone, man.
See, I don't have one of those anymore. I don't have a cell phone. You don't even know, man. It's so bad.
When you got Dylan on here, I tell you what, man, Dylan, you deserve mad props in more areas than you see why. I mean, any not child, but any adolescent or person of your age, you're 15 years old and you have a better comprehension than most 30-year-olds that I talk to on a daily basis of what's really going on in the world and how things are derived. It's amazing.
Well, see, that's why I love bringing him on, is because it gives me hope for that generation. And, I'm hoping that he is real successful as he goes. Not to mention the fact, and I don't like to focus on this, but because I find it distasteful to focus on it, but the fact is that this kid is actually confined to a wheelchair, and when he's using his computer, he can't even use it like you or I would. Kind of funny because we make jokes that if he and I were in the same room at the same time, I could use his eyesight and he could use my hands, and we could get a whole lot more done. But yeah, he's actually really, really aware. Not entirely educated yet, but he's working on it, man. He is getting there. Like I said, he wasn't really aware of the whole Jekyll Island thing, but he's aware that the Federal Reserve is a problem.
Right. And it makes sense to me because, I was in the Army for 8 years, and recently I became the stay-at-home dad, disabled father, and when you've got less mobility and you're used to being mobile, and Dylan's not used to being as mobile as I would have been before, you focus on different things. You have the time to educate yourself. When before, someone like me has got ADHD, I just go, and do. Now I've got the opportunity in the last 4 years to sit back, educate myself, and figure out what's really going on. Because before, I was just a soldier that was like, why do people hate George Bush? What's wrong with the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan? I'm over here saving lives, and I was medevac. It's different. And to be out and to be not propagandized and indoctrinated anymore is, honestly, it's a blessing. At some points, it does weigh on the mind, because once you dive into that rabbit hole, like you were saying, you're having a hard week and a hard show. It's hard, man. You dive in that rabbit hole, and it becomes perplexing because it's overwhelming, and you want to read more, but at the same time, your mental structure says, why? why is all of this going on? Why would I have to deal with all this? You know, why aren't other people so aware?
See, and that's why other people that have been doing this a lot longer than me have always said to me that it was kind of insane that I never seemed to unplug from it, because they all advise that you take some time and just purposely avoid it, you know. But the thing is, for me, it's like I can't do that because I spent way too much time inside the machine looking at it by the wrong angle. You know what I mean? Still believing that these things were on my side when they weren't. Still believing that although the government lies, they don't lie all the time. You know, although some wars are unjust, maybe they're not all unjust. But the more I come around to these things, it's just like the whole thing is just so overwhelmingly ill. You know, as an organism, you know, the whole planet, the whole species is just so indoctrinated into sickness at this point that it just it does become kind of overwhelming. Like, why am I even bothering to run my mouth? You know, and that's. I know that sounds really like, you know, poor me or what. It's not. It's just a realistic sort of look at it where you go, well, what am I going to do? And usually I try to be optimistic about it, where it's like, you know, I use the whole analogy of, you know, even a raindrop in the ocean, eventually, if there's enough raindrops in the ocean, the tide will change. And it's true, but sometimes it's hard to see it when you're just a raindrop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, and exactly.
Sorry, I cut in there.
No, good.
You're good, sir.
Go ahead, either way. Whichever one you wants to continue, I'm more than happy to listen.
Don't go for it. I'm going to hop off here, guys, because I got to prepare for a possible show, possible not show, but I can't get a hold of Jules, so I have no idea what's going on. But there are people that listen, and there are the rebroadcasts, so don't get discouraged. I was doing that for a minute last week myself, and Vince kind of talked me out of that, and that's how it goes. You've got to realize that regardless of how many listeners we have or how many listeners we know are listening, it will be rebroadcast, and it is on archive. So we don't know how many people come in, and we have the opportunity to reach people, and even if it's at a small scale, it's definitely worth it. So
it's the message.
You guys continue this convo, and I will be out of here. So.
All right. Thank you, Colby, man. I'm going to be in touch with you again soon, too, by the way.
All righty, sir.
All right. Take care. Thank you, bro.
Roger. Out.
Chuck, I think it's the message that counts, not the reach. Because if you can convince one person, just one, to break out of the sleeper hold that they're under, you win. You've done something. You've broken the trance.
Mm. Am I really coming off like that, or I just am so defeated sounding that you know, that's where I'm at? I mean,
you know, you didn't sound defeated really until I got back. And I got back as you were talking to Colby about the raindrop. I understand it, but you got to remember there are always going to be more raindrops.
This is true. And I definitely would say, you know, check out Double Cross Radio, which is something else you can find on the UCY page. In case you're listening to this elsewhere, you know, Colby's a cool guy. I like it. He actually really jumps in at some really key times on me sometimes on here, so I really appreciate that. Thanks again for calling in, Colby.
I'm gonna have to get in contact with him because I'm gonna need help with my shows, because I've been rambling the past few shows, and
you know, believe it or not, I could probably give you some people that could help you not to ramble so bad, although they can't teach me because I'm just unteachable. But
yeah, you're not unteachable. You don't ramble all the time.
You don't think so?
Not all the time. You have your moments.
I get those complaints sometimes where it's like, you know, you talk too fast. And
talking too fast, I can agree with, but that's not rambling. Rambling is saying nothing of value just to fill airtime.
Well, once again, good point, which, occasionally I do. But,
like I said, you do that occasionally.
But you know what? It's usually, honestly, when I'm staring down and trying to message somebody to get them up, or they're telling me that they can't make an internet connection, they're supposed to be on the show, and this and that, and that's usually when those really nonsensical rants happen, because I just don't want to have dead air.
Yeah, I've done that before, too, and I try to stop, but it's really just it's an internal thing. You do it on instinct.
Yeah, I guess
it's
so.
Hard to stop.
Well, anyway, you know what? And I didn't even cover the other thing that somebody slid me. My new favorite phrase, which I'm going to borrow from Dennis Ford, who was a guest last, I think Saturday he was on with me. Dennis Ford gave me this new phrase for somebody in the alternative media. He calls him Panic Attack Jones. I like that. That's pretty funny. So somebody slid me a whole thing with Panic Attack Jones about how the southern border is being invaded, et cetera, et cetera. And you know what? I didn't get time to dissect that at all. That was just contributing factor to my whole, like, are you kidding me? Kind of reaction to the overall media spectrum this week. Which is the same kind of thing. If, somehow I get locked in a room that's stuck on MSNBC, the same thing happens. It's weird. It's like psychic driving. It's like the continual playback of the tape over and over again. It seems like they changed the words, but I think the harmony is still the same. And hopefully, by the way, by the show after the September 11th show, I am hoping to create a situation where we have a few guests who claim, and I'm not saying that I buy all of their claims, but claim to have been victims of mind control experiments and things like this.
Those are people that you have to be cautious of.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to present their little, stories and probably wind up in some arguments and things because apparently one of them won't appear without the other one, and one of them I take as legitimate and one of them I don't, which is very strange. But let's just say that there are a lot of aspects to that whole thing, and the whole world doesn't necessarily revolve around MK Ultra or MK Delta or the previous artichoke experiments or what have you. There are a great many levels to the mind control that exist out there, and some people's stories I believe and some people's I don't, and some people are just disturbed. So
yeah, not everybody can blame it on MK Ultra.
No, you almost wish you could, though.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Although I will take this opportunity to once again say that I do apologize to the individuals who were literally wearing tinfoil hats when I was younger. I did think you were absolutely crazy. I was quite wrong. You are correct. The CIA was beaming things into your brain. My bad. So.
Yep, and I'll apologize for previously, for before I was awake, making fun of conspiracy kooks.
Oh, well, tell me you were one of these people that used to use phrases like, on the grassy knoll. Tell me that.
I was not.
Because even as asleep as you were, you realized that even that was too ridiculous to swallow?
Yes, and there are a lot of things I found too ridiculous to swallow.
Well, what else did you find? We only got like 8 minutes left here. What else did you find too ridiculous to swallow when you were sleepwalking a bit there?
9/11.
See, here again, you have me beat, sir. Because I bought that whole thing. I really did at first. It took like a couple of years before I went, something's wrong here.
I did not buy the Iraq War at all.
Well, no, that was... Do you want to talk about a case of something that's way too obvious?
And I was 6 years old at the start of that. Wait, when did it start? 2001?
Well, the Adventures into Iraq, I'm pretty sure, kicked off officially in 2003. Okay,
well, I remember I was like 6 years old and was questioning why we were there.
Yeah, well, the 6-year-old can question why we're there. But you know, there really were weapons of mass destruction. And all right,
maybe ours.
Well, you know, isn't that the point? And this is why I half believe when they talk about, you know, ISIS being one of the most evil constructs in history. Well, I would tend to have to concede the idea that if something is going to be constructed for international terror, if something is going to be brutal in a region of the world, especially as far away as that is from us, if something is going to be involved in terrorizing civilian populations, murder, and all sorts of mayhem, I do have a tendency to believe that only our own intelligence agencies could create such a thing like this, because they have plenty of practice under their belts.
Chuck, let's be fair. They are some of the most evil straw men and scarecrows we've ever created.
Well, there you go, except, you know, some of these straw men might have some teeth at this point, because we did legitimately leave weapons for, you know, those people that, gee, doesn't that sound familiar, though? Because the Mujahideen and Osama bin Laden and,
that's just a coincidence, too.
Well, you know, the new boss looks like the old boss, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and the playbook still has the same plays in it, so that's all I can say about that. You know, well, there's actually plenty more I can say about it, but we don't have the time, and even if we did, I'm kind of exhausted. We're down to like the last 5 minutes, so just want to remind everybody that you can find Dylan's stuff by looking at The Truth Speaks. It's actually been broadcast on Shake and Wake Radio, although I guess it's in some sort of hiatus.
It's in limbo right now. We're returning though.
Okay, so it will return, but even in the interim, if you haven't checked out the stuff on YouTube, just look for The Truth Speaks on YouTube, and you might even find me sounding a lot more coherent and a lot less dejected on a couple of shows.
Trust me, he's a lot more coherent on my other shows.
Than this one, that's right.
And he says more than just ramblings about California and New Jersey being from another dimension.
And it's not all JFK-based either. We discussed, Fukushima.
9/11.
We started to discuss 9/11. I think it went way the hell off the rails, but...
but that's all our shows.
Yeah. That's the good thing about you, is at the very least we can switch up topics and change things around and drop something unexpected on the listener, so... That's always fun.
I don't care what I talk about as long as I get good information out there.
Well, right, and I think in all fairness, even though I have spent some time rambling on here and all that, I think that I did get some decent information out there. And, you know, regarding that Iraq war, I say again, the occupational governor of Iraq is somebody very interesting to look into when you're looking for culpability regarding 9/11. I'm really starting to believe that. And there's a couple other interesting names, which I will definitely touch on next Thursday's show.
Oh, I look forward to hearing about that.
Yeah, I mean, probably I'll get more into Bernie Kerik and, you know, the former police chief of New York City and all of his interesting action as well, because I think, again, if we can just figure out who's actually holding the leash on some of these dogs, we might actually find out who orchestrated the attacks and who orchestrated the hunts for the various creatures.
I think your bumper is about to come in.
It's probably just about there. Believe me, you will know it when it hits, but I think we have 2 minutes left. So
yeah, your bumper, that thing is loud. I turned down my volume at the end of our shows because the first time I came in here and that bumper hit, my ears were ringing.
See, and that's all my fault because, again, that's me playing the guitar and a guy I was in a band with in the early 90s. I think, 90 to 93, somewhere in there, or 90 to 92, somewhere in there. His name was Jay Battistoni, was the drummer.
Webcam microphone.
the age of 19 in 1962, she was a...
See, but I have the files. You know, I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? The brain, you know, pistols and fondle slab of choice. I don't know when that was. It doesn't really matter. Internet, professional wrestlers, and not just Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the information comes from as long as it's real. It doesn't. It's hard to get real information because seriously, they don't want you to have just reads to